Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for coming to this session where we're going to talk about EOSC engagement at a regional level. This is the agenda we have for the day, for the session, not for the entire day. We're going to look at a few different examples of regional engagement, and some of these have come from a specific set of funded projects that we're working in specific regions, like the Nordics or the Western Balkans. Some of them are looking at a particular region within a country, so it's a slightly different geographic perspective. And some are actually looking a little bit more on a thematic level. So we have a broad kind of concept of what it means to be a region. We're going to hear kind of short lightning talks, 5-minute talks from each speaker. We'll take some questions after those. So if there's things you want to know more about the work they've been doing, by all means ask questions. And then we're actually going to have a panel discussion to think about EOSC engagement at a regional level. What are the potential benefits of working across a set of countries or across a set of different stakeholder groups? How does that work more effectively, perhaps at a national level? And how do you sustain that kind of engagement? So that's what we'll do over the next 90 minutes. The speakers we'll have today, Lene Kroll-Andersen from EOS Nordic, Ilias Papas, I'm going to butcher the name, sorry Ilias, from NIFOS Europe, Rob Carrillo from EOS Pillar, Helen Clare from EOS Synergy, and Miguel Rey Maison from TU Graz. And to first up invite Lene Kroll-Andersen. Lene is the project manager behind the EOS Nordic Consortium, and she holds the position as international liaison at Computer Rome in Denmark, bridging between the national and Nordic collaborations within the area of sensitive data and infrastructure. She has a PhD in natural sciences, and she's chair of the technical advisory board of DISCO. So Lene, tell us about EOS Nordic.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I would like to start. Before I go in, I've had the privilege to see the other presentations that are coming up here, so I will be talking about some different aspects as well. But before I go into present EOSC Nordic, I want to share that also we in the Nordic region, we have the Nordic Council of Ministers. So we have actually already a cross-border regional governmental setting. This is and paved the way for a lot of collaborations going on in the Nordics and Baltics as well. So with that asset, our coordinating body of EOSC Nordic is this Nordic e-infrastructure collaboration, called NITE. So this is a kind of unusual way of approaching an EU-granted project, because the coordinating body is delegating the project manager role. So this is not an in-house project manager from the coordinating organization, but a distributed. So with this story, I just want to say that a lot of trust is already built in from the very start. When you are delegating as an organization your project manager role to one of your collaborators already there. So we have a very strong and trusted foundation in the Nordic region that also benefits into the project of EOS Nordic, of course. First, with my 5 minutes, I want to just show you these 5, I call them EOSC pioneers. They are from the Nordic regions. They are researchers, cardiology doctor. Their mindset is already into EOSC. They are doing it. They have been our demonstrators. They have demonstrated that we have, for example, within cardiology, we have a proof of concept to share sensitive data across the Nordic and architecture that can work, also building upon earlier work, of course. We have Anne Clare here from the climate research area. She has adopted the toolbox of EOSC Life infrastructure. EOSC Life is a project of 13 SRAs, as we know. Their toolbox has been integrated into the climate community. So there you have it. There you have the sustainability. They are using it. They have adopted it from a different discipline, integrate. They're going to sustain it, by using it. Natural language processing, yes, they are developing models, language models. This is around the Norwegian language and now being shared across the Nordics. Jens Bjørn from the archaeology area, he is happy because now he just needs to enter into one interface when he needs to search across Europe for example, jewelries traveling across Europe. He doesn't need to go into each country and each database and check, is it jewelry found in this area and so forth. So he is there, and this is what he has wanted for a long time. And Matthias Obst in biodiversity, marine biologist, he is predicting he can through the marine biology actually predict coming viruses, things like that. They can do extreme good things there, and this is a combination of many data on our bottom of the sea. So, important point, we have our researchers and users out there, their minds are there, so it's up to us to make it work better. Sensitive data, I don't want to go into the details of each of those stories I just told you here, but just highlight the Nordic key exploitable results, new services and tools facilitating the integration with EOSC Future Catalog and fair assessment and EOSC knowledge uptake has been provided from the region. And we have proven that the fair uptake has increased. The fair score has increased for almost 100 repository, thanks to Mari over here, and over 300 data stewards has been trained in our region as well. So we are increasing fairness and we are increasing competences within this area. EOSC alignment discussions for consolidating in the region. Sarah Garavelli and her team around policy in EOSC Nordic has really pushed our government to talk together. Just by that harmonization, understanding where each other are going. This is a huge step for the region, and it's something that will also be continuing under the umbrella of Nordic Council Ministers and NIC as well to some extent. And increased cross-country disciplinary collaboration has, as I told you, also been, one of our big assets. And it's all gathered through this window, the Knowledge Hub, and we know EOSC Future has an EOSC Future Knowledge Hub, so we also want to integrate this EOSC Nordic Knowledge Hub into that, or call it EOSC Future Knowledge Hub. It doesn't matter. It's important that we link our material, our results, and integrate it all. So I think we have really boosted through EOSC Nordic, the Nordic and Baltic region has really been boosted towards EOSC in a larger pace that we could have done individually at national level. So, but we will be talking more about this in the panel as well. Yeah, I think that was my 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Lene. Any questions from Lene? Then maybe I'll ask one just to get us started. You mentioned when you were talking about the researchers about the sustainability and the adoption by the research community. And I think I agree. I think that's really critical. If a research community sees the benefit, then they invest more in those tools and try and make them sustainable. But I wondered what role you see for the infrastructure providers or for the universities or other institutions and the research communities, and where you see that responsibility for sustainability lying.
Sustainability comes with usage. So I think we as infrastructure providers need to take our communities in their hands, show them how this works. So when they see the light, it's much easier to talk sustainability. And this is what we see. We see it surely through the climate community, because now it's adopted. They need it in order to do their stuff, and even better than they are doing today. So I think the way to sustainability is, integration. So, and how do we integrate? We integrate by getting us closer together in the communities. So yes, and then of course there are operational aspects that need to be funded, and this is of course critical, but it's when you have a demand, and that demand is crucial, you have a better chance to get it funded. So I think this is the way.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay, then thank you again, Lene.
Yeah. Do you want me to sit there? Or?
If you want to sit there, you can, but you won't be able to see the slides for the other talk, so I'd be inclined to come down and then we can all go up for the panel at the end. Thank you. Okay, so next up is Ilias, who is an electrical and computer engineer at the National Technical University of Athens, and he holds the position of project manager at GRNet since 2020. He participates in the management and implementation of national and EU projects in the area of high-performance network connectivity and EOSC, such as the GEON projects GN43 and 43N, and has also been working on NIFOS Europe and EOSC Future. Previously, he had also worked at the European Commission in Brussels as a policy officer at the Directorate General for Migration and Home Affairs, DG Home. So, Ilias, you can come up and tell us about the NIFOS project.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to say a few words also for the EOSC Future and the Western Balkan engagement. So NIFOS Europe project is one out of the 4 regional EOSC projects, and started in 2019 and will end soon. NIFOS Europe region consists of 15 member states and associated countries in the southeastern Europe. For us, the regional collaboration in our region is not something new. It's something that is running for the past 20 years. We have achieved so far concretely policy and technological developments through a series of projects like the SIREN, SIGRID, the High Performance SE and VI-SIM. Now we are doing the same with NIFOS Europe and the Open Science. We have a very close relationship with our governments in order to secure the national support and of course to implement all these European initiatives. Regarding now the Open Science, we have run a landscape activity and we have seen a great fragmentation in our region. We are a region with great diversities that includes 7 member states, but also 8 associated countries. This means non-EU states. So we wanted to find a solution in order to support concretely the open science policies for our countries and also engage them more into the European Open Science Cloud. So we have thought about the establishment of the National Open Science Cloud initiatives, our NOSCIs, that are coalition of the national organizations that have a role and interest in EOSC, with the main objective to promote synergies at national level, but also to optimize their participation into the EOSC ecosystem. For us, the NOSCIs are a living open science ecosystem that support EOSC governance and embrace at the same time the diversity of the open science maturity in our countries. They are spreading also awareness and communicating EOSC development, and with this task, we are tackling the knowledge gap into the EOSC. We organize also and coordinate the national community with activities, and they are helping the interconnection with the EOSC ecosystem, but also the participation into the EOSC association. So we have seen from the results that the NOSCIs are reducing the policy fragmentation and promote at the same time federation on national level. So we have our tangible outcomes. We have already established 12 NOSCIs in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Georgia, Greece, Hungary, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Romania, Serbia, Slovenia. Many of these NOSCIs are running through lightweight MoU, Memorandum of Understanding, and you can see also at the link you can find all the information, and we have also other 3 NOSCIs that are on the course of establishment. So, in order to create these NOSCIs, we have given a comprehensive framework. We are calling it the blueprint, that is including a checklist for the workflows for setting up the NOSCIs, the indicators for the monitoring of the NOSCIs establishment. but we have seen that the impact of NOSCIs is immense. We have very strong collaboration at the regional level. We're exchanging best practices. We are training also a very high number of individuals. We have also quite a few developments into the open science policies in the majority of our countries, and we support at the same time the pace across our region. And this is very important because we want to prevent the two-speed Europe. And of course, we encourage the broader use of EOSC available resources. In the meantime, we are also supporting EOSC association and EOSC governance, and we are having a number of concrete and tangible results, such as the support to our national representatives in the steering board. We have provided input to the all EOSC strategic documents. We are participating into the EOSC task force and now in the advisory boards, and we have a very strong presence into the EOSC association. Plus, we helped and we are helping with the organization of the Tripartite events. A second big example of tangible result of our project is also the EOSC resources. We have a dedicated NIFOS Europe pre-production platform, and we are feeding the resources into the EOSC catalog, and we have achieved that 1/3 of the EOSC catalog to be NIFOS Europe services and resources. So we have 37 repositories, 31 thematic services, 22 generic services, 8 core services, and 58 providers. The number that you're seeing on the upper left corner is the number of the resources that has been already onboarded into the EOSC catalog. This means from the 31 thematic services of the NIFOS Europe production platform, the 15 are already uploaded into the EOSC portal catalog. So NIFOS Europe contributed majorly into the EOSC core. We have a monitoring system, accounting, authentication and authorization infrastructure, a training portal, and a help desk system. But also we have contributed a lot in the EOSC exchange with all this, through all these NIFOS Europe services, but also in order for you to see how meaningful it is, the services, and into the EOSC ecosystem, we have run an open call, and we had 20 applications from the research communities, and 5 are from the life science, 2 in climate research, 3 in digital cultural heritage, and 8 in computational physics, and 2 in other sectors. Now, let's see, I'm wearing now my EOSC Future hat. Is the main project now that is supporting the implementation of EOSC, and of course would like to further develop the EOSC portal, the EOSC core, and the EOSC exchange. What we are doing in the Western Balkans and how we are trying to foster the user engagement, GRNet with partners from North Macedonia, Serbia, and Montenegro. We are trying to engage more the users into EOSC through dissemination events. We are promoting the EOSC and the FAIR principles into the region, and we are supporting the communities to apply to all the EOSC calls. Also, we are participating in a number of events in the Western Balkans, in North Macedonia, in Kosovo, in Montenegro, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, in Albania, in Hungary, Montenegro, and Serbia, in order to disseminate the results. So, we have now the EOSC Future user groups, that is first-hand feedback, let's say, on the EOSC user experience, and we have currently more than 300 people there. We have also from the Western Balkans, from North Macedonia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Serbia. If you want also to get involved and someone doesn't know in the EOSC code design and validation, I have put also the link. You can also participate. And lastly, we're supporting the Western Balkans communities in order to apply for all the upcoming calls and the grants, but also for the early adopters program, and possibly we will having applicants from North Macedonia and Serbia. So my concluding remarks from the region of the Southeastern Europe and the Western Balkan is that we have to keep the region aligned with the European efforts and support countries on their path to the European accession. We have to ease the digital gap between the region and the rest of the EU, and it's very important for our region to prevent the brain trade. And the most important and crucial remark is that we have to continue the EU funding for the region initiatives and the project, of course, matching the national funding in order to keep the momentum and prevent the two-speed Europe. Not all the countries are big. We have also smaller states that they have to have their voice. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Elias.
Any questions from the floor for Ilias? No. One question from me, you talked about trying to keep everyone at the same pace so we don't have two-speed Europe. I wondered if you could reflect a little bit on how easy or how challenging that's been, because it's quite a diverse region, very different countries at very different stages of maturity.
Yes, exactly. This was the problem. It's the differences are huge. Everyone has its own pace, and we have tried a lot in order, to homogenize, let's say, this region, and for this reason we believe that the creation of the National Open Science Cloud initiatives helped on this issue. And also, if you think, same regions face the same challenges, so it was very easy for the most advanced countries in the region to share their experience. For example, in order to create the NOSCIs or to make some open science policy documents, there were states, I think 8 states didn't even have one policy paper, even for open access. So it was let's say, easy for us because we are on the same region in order to share everything. For example, the Memorandum of Understanding, we have already provided draft articles for its creation because we have the same agenda, the same issues, the same challenges, and it was same everything. Exactly the same with the Open Science Plan in Greece, in order to advance and our national policy agenda, but it's the same issues. I mean, the open access to data, to software, the infrastructure enhancement, they are all the same issues. So we helped a lot because we share the information inside the region. And this is something that we are doing, 20 years now. Infrastructure development, networking development, HPC, it's not something new for us. So for this reason, I said the important thing is to continue this regional collaboration because it's not easy, especially for the smallest state, to raise their voice in the international, okay, we have international initiatives, they are doing a great job, but the smallest states needs also an extra boost, let's say, in order to raise their voice. And this is exactly why the regional initiatives are needed.
Just a quick follow-up. I understand for Greece, one of the sustainability is EOSC future, but what about these smaller states? How they will sustain the communities?
This is a very good question for the European Commission and what they're going to do because all the regional projects are finishing soon. Okay, we have other EOSC big projects, and it's not only EOSC Future. We have a number of new EOSC projects. They are not regional as such, like Skills for EOSC, but the partners from our region, of course, are participating, but it's not the same.
The scope is typically different.
So, for this reason, I'm saying that the Commission maybe should find a way in order to help the regional initiatives and sustain them. It's not only national state, because now for 20 years, from 1992, they are funding regional initiatives. And if we have seen all this update on infrastructure and the establishment of everything, it's due to this regional initiative, at least for our region, okay, that it's quite diverse. So it's very important. And also we have MoUs in place for the infrastructure, and they have to be sustained, yes.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, thanks. I can only second what you're saying there, and I think also the danger of going, I mean, of course we need to work from a centralized platform. That's natural. But I can also worry about the smaller country not being included in regional collaborations will be fragmented. I mean, it will be a fragmented Europe if we are not to ensure inclusion of the smaller countries, and we see the same.
Exactly.
So,
this is what I'm saying. It's the European Commission. For example, in Greece, we are building our new HPC machine, a huge one, the new one, and we have from ourselves invited countries from Serbia, North Macedonia, smaller state. Maybe Albania in the future, but it's not our job, Okay, we are doing resource sharing, okay, as GRNet. And we have provided also all our knowledge and infrastructure development to all this region and the smallest state. But it's not our call, it's a call for the Commission. Of course, it's national agenda, but you know the national agendas on these states, it's quite peculiar, I can say. And this was a challenge for us. You know, you have change of the governments. It was very difficult to engage also the governments to participate in this scheme, in this vehicle, let's say, for the National Open Science Cloud initiatives. But at least we brought together all the EOSC stakeholders, and we have pushed for the government to be also part of these initiatives. Why? Because we wanted to ensure the national, let's say, the national funds, or at least the match funding. But you need European funds because you have different agendas. 15 member states with completely different agendas. Elections, you know, they're running elections now to our region in everywhere. So it's quite difficult because when the government changes, the agenda also is changing. So you have to have some stable pillars in order to do what you should to do and you want to go. And for the open science, it was, you know, the landscape was completely fragmented, not only in our region, but also to the bigger state, let's say, etc. But also the bigger states have a better organization. It's not the same with all the
But I
countries.
think you're right that the EC funding is really pivotal to enable the smaller countries to get involved and to get their buy-in. You had a comment as well, Eleni?
Yes. So, based on your comment, which that's a very sensitive issue, the sustainability one. So, I don't think that EOSC Future is the right vehicle for supporting the sustainability of the national initiatives. And not because it doesn't have this regional focus. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that for the eternity, the Commission has to fund these initiatives. It's not a sustainability model that we want for our region. And that's why we developed the plans, we developed the blueprint, we developed the methodologies to make these initiatives self-sustainable. And that's why we invested a lot of effort to bring actual stakeholders from each country together, because this is the only way that these initiatives can survive, together with the national support and the national funding, and the EU funding, I believe, through, again, a dedicated call for regional projects. This would have been supportive, because it is a new activity for EOSC. It is an important activity for EOSC. EOSC is building now on national representation. It would have made sense to have a second round of support for national structures, but not a generic project. A project that really aims to build national capacity at regional level. This would have been important and useful. We don't have this, and it's a pity. Exactly. We will continue on making this initiative sustainable, but EOSC Future is a huge project. It's there to build the EOSC core and not to build EOSC capacity. It will do this, by the way, but it's not its main aim.
Exactly. You know, Eleni Toli is the director in the NIFOS Euro project. And exactly, EOSC Future, skills for EOSC, all the other EOSC, they have a different scope. They're not focusing into the regional initiatives.
I think this is maybe something we can pick up in the panel as well, about like the national role, the NOSCIs that you've had here, and the regional aspect, because I think there's a lot happening, like with the mandated organisations within EOSC Association too. So trying to push that work further and make that sustainable is something we can address. Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have Rob Carrillo, who coordinates the communications, community building and stakeholder engagement activities of EOSC Pillar, and he's also the outreach coordinator for UDAT. He coordinated and executed the communication and engagement strategies for a number of EOSC-related initiatives since EOSC Pilot, and he's also a dissemination expert for the European Commission's Horizon Results Booster. So, take it away, Rob.
Right. Good morning, everyone. So thank you very much for coming to today's session. So I'll be speaking about some of the outputs of the EOSC Pillar project, and I'm fortunate to have just come from our final event in Paris about 2-3 weeks ago. So, well, just a quick introduction. EOSC Pillar basically spans Austria, Belgium, France, Germany, and Italy. So specifically coordination and harmonization of national initiatives, infrastructures, and data services in Central and Western Europe. This is coordinated by GAR. We have 18 partners, as you can see, spread across these 5 countries. Some of the impacts that we have achieved through our various results. So harmonized procedures for research data services delivered across countries, coordination with other initiatives to achieve harmonization for an inclusive EOSC, full understanding of the state of national initiatives and compute and data services supporting consolidation, increasing fair data uptake at national levels and across scientific communities and borders, the launch of new non-commercial transnational services, which are now in the portal, building communities in each of these countries, and business models for sustainable provision of transnational services. So I'll go through some of the main results now, but this in no way is an exhaustive list of them. I invite you to please visit the EOSC Pillar website to see the complete set of results. But the first one is the RDM Training and Support Catalog. This is a collection of online searchable resources for fair data stewardship and research data management. So far up to present, we've had 140 monthly accesses, and for the sustainability, basically the methodology is being fed now into Skills for EOSC, and the catalog is designed according to EOSC future specifications, so there's some future potential uptake for that. In detail, you can visit this catalog by visiting the link. Another output from the project are legal and policy recommendations and guidelines. So the recommendations for legal and policy harmonization of open and fair science in EU, as well as the legal compliance guidelines for researchers. So basically this is to promote the implementation of fair principles and to lay down the conditions for the effective realization of open data and open science policies. So this has been, of course, from the deliverable, we digested it into something a little bit more digestible and easily readable. And it is already being used. Two instances, for example, the European Genome-Phenome Archive and Laniakea. So far, the checklist has been downloaded 864 times, so there's quite a number of uptake there, and the recommendations, 376. You can have a look at that on the link in the slide. Another result of the project is the EOSC Readiness Dashboard Proof of Concept. Some of you may have seen the EOSC Observatory being presented previously, but during the early parts of the project, this is one of the outputs of the Infra-EOSC 05 Task Force on Landscaping at the time, which was chaired by EOSC Pillar. So one of the outputs of that was this proof of concept, and now we're happy to see that it's actually live and you can see it in the flesh. Another result of the project is the Federated Fair data space. This is a unified data space of data sets from existing and heterogeneous repositories and data sources, making repository content fairer. So you can see the example workflow over there. As of recently, this is now operational and has been tested through our various use cases. There is a fairest fair version, and there's even interest for private sector uptake. In detail, you can have a look at the link at the end of the slide. Another aspect or another output of the project is the EOSC Pillar Ambassadors Program. So after the landscaping activity that we conducted across the countries, we realized how low awareness is on EOSC. So what we did was we developed communication materials, so flyers, posters, etc., even in the national languages. This was not originally foreseen, but we found that there was actually quite a lot of interest in them. And we're quite happy with the uptake, and the idea is basically to support what would be ambassadors on an institutional level to talk about EOSC and to empower them with these materials. So As of late, we've had up to 617 poster downloads across the various versions from German, Italian, etc. 773 flyer downloads across 5 languages. And these are all publicly available, so anyone can reuse them, and they can be reused by the ambassadors. And the aim is to have these reference points in each institution. So you can have a look at the link as well. Another result of the project is an interoperable national, as well as other thematic service catalogs. So the interoperable service catalog supports service publishing and discovery, and provides communities of practice with virtual research environments through D4Science and ready-to-use services. So you can, it is now available at eosc-pillar.d4science.org. It is already configured to the EOSC provider and resource profiles and ready for marketplace onboarding. You can see more in detail. That link is actually to the session focusing on it from our final event. So you can actually see it live from the developers. Oh, so I think that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Any questions for Rob? We're all very quiet on questions today. Maybe one from me. You mentioned about the early kind of observatory work and also the federated data space. How have you tried to link what you're doing into other projects to sustain it or to keep that work ongoing?
Right, so a lot of the outputs of EOSC Pillar, fortunately, has actually been taken up by a number of follow-up projects. So EOSC Future, Skills for EOSC. The observatory, for example, is already live, and so on. We have our training methodology and catalogs that are being taken up by Skills for EOSC. But apart from that, also on a national level, we're even seeing some uptake from the national initiatives, as well as some of the consortium members themselves are taking up these results and moving forward. So it's really quite varied. It's not just on a European level, but more importantly, even on a national level, seeing an uptake.
So, Rob, thank you. Can you tell a little bit on the regional activities that you did in the project? You can have examples of things that the project did to interact with in the region with the different countries.
Yes, certainly. So with the other regional projects, for example, early on, EOSC, so just for the information of those maybe who are not from the regional projects, actually EOSC Pillar was the first regional project to start quite early on, so we had a bit of lead time, let's say. And already we tried to generate some collaborations with a number of with our sister regional projects, let's say. One really tangible collaboration point that we had was on the landscaping activity. Since we started quite earlier, so we developed a methodology on how to do the surveys and so on, and this was shared with the other regional projects. So some of the questions might have been reused and so on. So at least there's some already early on during the time of the regional projects. There was already some collaboration there. Aside from that, throughout the lifetimes of the regional projects, we have signed an agreement with the rest of them to continue to collaborate on a number of parallel topics. So there's landscaping, there's policies. I was involved personally in the communication and events, and where we can do joint work. It can be as simple as a workshop together to discuss about national catalogs and how would that look like in EOSC. So we try to always converge on a regional level. Apart from that, also even after EOSC Secretariat, for those who remember, that was the main supporting project for these task forces. Even after EOSC Secretariat already ended, these projects continued to collaborate further because we've established the links and the networks that was necessary to continue the collaboration forward.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, so next up, I'd like to introduce Helen Clare, who's got over 20 years' experience working in training and staff development in the educational sector. For the last 7 years, she specialised in supporting skills for open research at JISC in the EOSC Synergy and EOSC Future projects specifically. And she's also co-chair of the EOSC Association Task Force on Upskilling Countries. Okay. There we go.
Morning, everyone. Sarah's done a nice introduction, so I don't need to do that part. I'm here to present on behalf of the EOSC Synergy project. So I'm presenting on behalf of the whole consortium, and what I want to do is similar to the others, is explain a little bit about what the project did and describe some of our regional approaches. In terms of what the project did, is say we're implementing EOSC at the national level. We had various different work packages covering different aspects. We were a strongly technical project, so a lot of our work packages were involved in technical infrastructure, which has some implications for regional, because it's kind of overarching. It can be implemented in any region. We were led by CSIC in Spain, and as I say, I'll come on to our partnership, our consortium, a little moment. So we had work packages on capacity expansion, for example. So we were involved in, for example, developing a cloud computing service based on Galaxy to support researchers accessing data sets in relation to COVID. So that was something that we were able to support with many other partners. Another of our work packages is around software quality assurance as a service. So quality assurance within the services that are being brought into EOSC, looking at fairness evaluation and sort of a badging process for that. We also had a strand of integrating thematic services. So we have 10 different thematic services that have been onboarded into EOSC in the areas of Earth observation, environment, biomedicine, and astrophysics. And then we also had strands on skills development, which was the one I was involved in, and policy, which Rob has already mentioned, so I'll come back to some of the points there. I think one of the first things to say about EOSC Synergy as a regional project is that we're quite an odd region. We're not really a region geographically. So I think I'm going to give it a little bit of a different perspective on what it means to be a regional in terms of collaboration. So we spread right from Portugal to the UK to Slovakia. We obviously do have the Czech Republic and Slovakia. We've got Portugal and Spain, but we're all in a mixed consortium. So in terms of what we're covering in terms of the skills, sorry, I just wanted to go back to the technical infrastructure and in that element. If you want to find out more about what the regional projects in the EOSC Synergy did in terms of the technical infrastructure, there was a talk by Isabel Campos earlier in the week as part of the Minimal Viable EOSC, so I won't be going into any of those details. I'm going to focus on the skills area and mainly the policy area as well. So in terms of the skills area, we were focused on a train-the-trainer approach in terms of enabling our services within the project to create their own training. So we wanted to provide support. We created a platform for the projects to use if they wanted to in the services. And as I say, we created a set of tutorials and a catalogue, like many other projects. And in terms of ensuring the interoperability of that catalogue, we based it on standard metadata, and we tried to address and produce materials in our consortium languages as well within that catalogue. Probably our most regional aspect was our interaction with national education programs. So we wanted to take the outputs of the project, the services that had been produced, and try to embed them within national education programs. So we did that using existing contacts within our project in our various nations. And in terms of the interaction, we did it at different levels. We were looking at, for example, use in university courses, use for self-managed training, self-directed training, train-the-trainer courses, and of course other EOSC projects. In terms of our feedback, again, we didn't really approach that on a regional level. We kind of gathered the feedback from various different regions and tried to pull out the common strands, which were, I think many of you would be familiar with, things like wanting more real examples and use cases, and I think that's where the regional but also the domain issue can come in. You want to have something that you can connect to that's relevant. They wanted various degrees of content from basic to more complex. There were points about perhaps adding interoperability interaction with content creators. So if somebody was using materials within a particular region, how can they get support for the use in that? So various different aspects there. But in terms of the policy area, again, Rob has already touched upon this because, as he mentioned, the regional projects did really work quite closely together on the sort of the policy alignment. Within Synergy, our policy work took 3 different strands. We started the project with the landscape reports. So each country produced a landscape report, and we led to these sort of publications. I imagine it sounds like we took some of the work from the EOSC pillar and built on that as well. And these have been a very popular sort of output. We had some nice infographics as well, which can give a snapshot of each country, which I think is very useful. So these were aimed at policymakers, EOSC bodies, researchers and funders. We then did a gap analysis within each of our countries and looked at recommendations for progress to improve engagement in EOSC. And our final report in the policy area was a report from each of these countries, well, a single report which gathered together the updates from each of these countries in terms of their progress towards the recommendations. And I think some of the interesting points that came out of that is that although our consortium is not a region, a geographic region, we found that there were often more things in common with countries that had similar features rather than just the fact that they were geographically closer to each other. So, for example, Portugal had a lot in common with the Czech Republic in terms of their size and their funding, etc. And while the Netherlands is a small country, it has a lot of funding. So, there are different factors at stake here and not just necessarily geography. Rob mentioned the collaboration across the regional projects. EOSC Synergy organised a national policies event back in May where all the regional projects contributed, and they looked at 3 different areas so we could see across our different nations the difference in national policies, funding policies, and access provisioning policies. So there is a workshop report which came from that. So just to summarise, in terms of our regional approach, as I say, because we're not a kind of close geographical region, our regional approach was about collaboration and sharing and learning from each other and implementing those lessons appropriately at our national level, so acknowledging those national differences. And as I say, a lot of our project was focused on the technical infrastructure, so it kind of overrides nations or overarches nations, but again we are looking at how to incorporate the national differences in technical infrastructures within that. And that's all I wanted to say.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Helen. Any questions for Helen? One thing that intrigued me, because it is a different kind of regional approach, those kind of features of the different countries. I wondered if that's informing some of the work you're now doing on upskilling, if you can try and profile countries, maybe match-make them with similar countries. I
think so. I think that's definitely the way we'd like to take it. And obviously, the task force on upskilling countries to engage in EOSC, we can't quite take on the mantle of the regional projects because we're voluntary and we don't have the funding, but I think there is an opportunity there to build on that work in collaboration with obviously the work that's going on in the Tripartite events, and also I think the EOSC Observatory is going to provide some great information and best practice case studies. So I think now it's time to bring all of this together. Thanks.
Okay, and last up we have Miguel Reymason, who's research assistant in the RDM team at Graz University of Technology. He's primarily involved in the EOS Focus project, which is the coordinating and support action, and he has 10 years experience in technology transfer and other science management matters. So, come on up.
So, thank you, Sarah, and thanks all of you for coming. So, talking about different animals in the regional approach, this is a totally different kind of project that we carried out in the federal state of Styria, and shows a different bottom-up approach to open science that, that has its advantages and disadvantages towards establishing the links to EOSC, so to speak. So, it's just regional in a very specific kind of sense. So because it's referred to this little federal state in Austria, which is very rich, has a very interesting landscape of industry, innovation companies, all becoming aware of the need to manage data and use the data to make further progress. So the 4 members of the consortium, which, by the way, I didn't mention, is TU Graz, the Medical University of Graz, and the kind of business school, managed to get support from the regional government to perform a kind of exploring exercise about what were the demands, what were the available infrastructures and services and requirements for data science to really become a thing in the region. So the idea was that by looking at several aspects, like human resources, the state of the educational opportunities for people to become data scientists or experts in cloud computing, that this will help the region. Well, the classic things of increasing investment and innovation and R&D opportunities, but ultimately the idea was to allow Styria to become better linked to EOSC and other international initiatives. Since the project was designed in 2019, more or less, and started in mid-2020, the Austrian national mandatory organization hadn't been designed yet, so hasn't been designated, sorry. So Styria acted here as a kind of pioneer at the Austrian level in the regional implementation of open science things. Of course, it doesn't mean that the others were not doing anything, the other regions, but in kind of engaging with the industry and bringing research and industry together, this was an innovative approach. So we did a lot of engaging with stakeholders, talking to researchers, representatives from the for the industrial clusters and other companies and businesses that use data or would like to use data, and inquired about all of these things. What infrastructure do you have? What would you need? What kind of services would you be interested in using? What kind of governance structure would you be interested in participating in? So the project ended in May this year, and the main conclusion was that it would be good to have a kind of support office at regional level in Styria to help SMEs get on board data science and open science stuff. So we try to make the case that a modular implementation of different services and tools that companies could use would help them best to access also and collaborate with researchers that have been using this kind of tools for a long time. So we explored different small tools like anonymization, data platform for collaboration with other institutions, plug-and-play security solution, which was maybe the most demanded thing by SMEs. And we also came up with a tentative governance structure that, it's nothing really like too original, but that this represents how the stakeholders in the region would like to engage with the outcome of this project, if it came to be, this idea support office. And I come to the conclusions right away because we've learned a few things to this project in Styria. Companies are apparently happy about the state of the education in data science related matters in Styria, so they would like to continue because they expect an increase in people doing this kind of jobs in the future. So it's good that they can be trained nearby and be easily accessed by the companies who need them. For SMEs who, at difference with the current state of EOSC, were also within our focus. They are mostly interested, especially the smallest ones without a dedicated IT department, to have access to tools that allow them to standardize the data and make them secure so that they can be safely secured with others. Maybe, and this is not maybe in the slide, well, yeah, not completely in the slide, what happened towards the end of the project is that we kind of, well, I wouldn't say lost, but the regional government who had funded this project became not so interested in the outcomes as we would have liked. This gave us an obvious lesson, which is that this political support, if you want things to continue in the future at this regional level, is very important if you want anything to happen in as a continuation. So, yeah, they were happy to see that the educational opportunities in data science were good, that the SMEs wanted to engage in data science, including moving towards open science, but they thought that this kind of, or a continuation of this initiative was not needed at this stage. They left somehow the consortium members to actually lead on this and take the first steps towards establishing such an organization. And they say, well, we'll see if we support you in the future. Many things happen in between the filing of the proposal and the completion of the project. Many things happen in the EOSC and the open science community. And now Styria hasn't walked away of the objectives that initially inspired this project, but has moved in a different direction through participation of Teugrad, for example, in EOS Focus together, and the establishment of the national initiative and the coordination through the mandatory organization, European Open Science Cloud Support Office Austria, of all the activities regarding open science. So that was it. Thank you for your attention.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Miguel. Any questions from the floor? No? What I'm going to do then is invite all the panelists to come onto the table and we can move into the Q&A session. Sorry, is this one on? Yeah, okay. We've heard about a lot of different initiatives and lots of different outputs from kind of national, don't put that on there, national and thematic catalogues, different training resources, ambassador programs and the technical infrastructure. And I wondered if a couple of you wanted to reflect on, what initiatives were most suitable for the region or were kind of most feasible to achieve, because it could be very different in different regions. Did the regional approach help? So were some things like catalogues more pertinent given that regional approach and a way to try and hook people into EOS, because it's easier to kind of work with something that's regional rather than European level? Yeah,
Start. Does it work? Yes, I can start. For EOSC Nordic, the Nordic region, I think, especially around the competence building cross-border, I think we all know finding centralized material at European level in an enormous catalog is super difficult. So it's about bringing your colleagues for the same courses, and I mean, we have to be very pragmatic about it. I think so. Competence building is certainly one, and competence building goes hand in hand with all of EOSC is doing. So the understanding of how to onboard your services, the understanding of how to make your repository fairs, these things they just come along. So I think in an EOSC context, the regions really complement the work EOSC as a Europe is doing. So I think that's where we need to bridge this collaboration much more. And Rob, you were saying it very clear also with the task forces. So obviously we are interested. We have learned a lot to collaborate also with regional regions and sharing and meeting up and discussing how we are doing it in the different regions. And it's also sustaining the knowledge and expertise in the region much more than if you have individuals attending enormous meetings at European level. It's not excluding those meetings, but we need to find ways to complement. So, yeah, I think.
Thanks for that. Yes, I actually second your view that indeed training activities actually is very, very useful to coordinate sort of on a regional level. Indeed, having it, let's say, centralized. And at least having the methodology. Another point which is useful to coordinate on a regional level is the landscaping or the monitoring. Actually, you need to have the same methodology when you're rolling out this type of activity across the region.
Yeah, Elias.
So the regional collaboration from our region can occur from the regional projects, as I said. We have achieved concrete results so far, and this has to continue. On the issue on who we want to engage in order to help with the regional coordination, I think that the service provisioning organization for EOSC it's very important. And specifically in our region, we have a memorandum of understanding for resource sharing the last 10 years. So the service provisioning organization is a pillar on this cooperation. But someone should also focus on this regional issue and for the funding, not only the national, but also the European funding.
Yeah. And if there's questions any of you want to give from the floor to the panel as well, by all means raise your hand and we can bring the microphone to. Yeah, sorry, Chris. It's okay, a microphone's coming.
It's only a remark. I found it very interesting, all those regional approaches, also the different approaches of all the projects. What I was wondering is, you all did some work on, I will say, technical implementation, policy work, training and education, and all with own accents. But did you meet between you also, and what was the result of that?
I can say that it's working. I can say that we have a collaboration agreement between the 4 regional projects together with Fairs and Fair, EOSC Secretariat, I think 7 in total, and we had quite a few coordination meetings, etc., in order to exchange the experience from our regions and, of course, through the various dissemination events. But we have also the deliverables. We have uploaded also in our NIFOS Europe webpage. I don't know what other regional project has done, but it was 7 signatories, because you have to understand that it was very good to have also this slide. In 2018, the Commission said how we can ensure the EOSC inclusiveness for the whole European Union area. So they come up with the regional project, and if you show a map, the whole Europe, it has the 4 regional projects, And so this was the solution. We have to have regional initiatives, regional projects that they're going to coordinate all these countries to have the results that we would like to have. So it was a need, let's say, and our obligation through the Commission that we have to cooperate and coordinate. But as you said, each region has completely different priorities, challenges. It was completely different. And we did that. And the Commission separated, let's say, into regions in order to tackle the same challenges that the region is facing and to build priorities. Of course, we can do, we have all the regional projects, different priorities, but they're not so much different at the end of the day, like skills, landscaping exercise. We all did landscaping exercises in order to see what is missing and what we have to put first in our agenda and what is needed, That's from me.
If I can just address the training side, like Ilias said, there was a task force that brought together the different training work packages across the project. So they met regularly. Partly that was just to exchange what we're doing, so it was just a place for conversation. And other times, I think the most concrete thing the training work package, task force worked on was around training catalogues. So looking at the metadata, the standardization, and also just seeing the different approaches across the projects. So I think, it was really useful to do that, I think.
I can continue if, yes. If we are to take this a step further, so now we are all ending, our regional projects are ending, we are going pan-European collaboration, fine. Next step, I foresee now we are gathering all services and training material and all this stuff, and we have it in a centralized window, it can work. And the next phase will then be to integrate it back into the regions and countries. So there we will be needing a lot of experts to understand the uses, the quality, where we should direct the services at a central European level, but also at a national level and so forth. So we need some integrators once we have established some kind of complete or dynamic catalog of services that can be used across Europe, I also think. So I think naturally, I hope that that EOSC will be using the benefits of the regional or cross-border settings that is already established. That's at least our advice.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, and I think it was very good with these kind of sets of projects that had been funded. There's the 07 projects, which are kind of rolling out services, so compute and storage, and then the regional projects. I think it's very good that there were these kind of collaboration agreements so that you did have this natural sharing of what you were doing. And kind of a follow-on question that we had that picks up on that is whether you found that both working in the regional context but also this collaboration across all of your activities led to more convergence on different standards and tools and kind of common approaches. I think that kind of happened with the landscaping, but maybe in other areas too. If you want to reflect on that, whether it led to some more joint approaches or adoption of standards. Helen?
Well, I think I've just mentioned the metadata side of things. I mean, we all followed the RDA profile, metadata profile that's been developed and that's now being taken forward into EOSC Future. So we're hoping that, like it's been said, that we can then integrate into the central catalogue as well. I don't know about the other.
From the EOSC pillar side, so of course, there are some guidelines coming from EOSC Future, and how to be more interoperable on an EOSC level. So yes, there is more convergence, we can see, but one point that came out from the last EOSC pillar final conference is, yes, we can standardize things, but not at the risk of losing the diversity in the domains, etc., that EOSC is supposed to represent. So, one of the mottos or quotes that I quite like from the EOSC pillar proposal was a unity in diversity. So we have to respect the diversity of the communities with their varied structures, procedures, tools, standards, etc. So yeah, that's.
Excellent, thanks, Rob. You want to come in, Elias? Yeah.
Yes, just to say that, for example, in our region, the pre-production environment that we had, and it has exactly the same rules for all the providers to put their EOSC-related resources, services, and everything, helped the whole region in order to have this amazing result with the upload of the NIFOS Europe services to the EOSC catalog. This helped. You had common tools, the same monitoring, accounting, everything. I mean, it was the same. So it helped a lot all the countries from the region.
Yeah. Excellent. Nane?
Yes, I agree, and especially around the fair, we have been really benefiting from RDA and developing the Fuji tool, the measuring fair, and so forth. But also, I want to say that we have been missing standardized, for example, around services, and my colleague Ilya can talk more about this in detail. But because we needed to understand the EOSC compliance settings and the understanding of the services and the benefits and so forth. But this will come, we understand. So it's also, the regional implementation project has also been have been ready, I would also say, to do this, but have been also been blocked a bit because perhaps we were moving a little bit faster than the centralized body, so to say. So, and that also shows why this collaboration is strong together, because we can really push something faster than at a centralized level. So I think it shows that some way this should be sustained and continued in some parameters. Yes.
Yeah. I think there's a lot that can be achieved at the regional level, and that can definitely help the central approach. I wanted to pick up, Miguel, you'd mentioned in your talk as well about the challenge, like the funders being less engaged at the end with the work that you'd done. So I wanted to think about when you're doing the regional coordination, how you can ensure that's effective and keep the different stakeholders involved. So how do you need to engage, if you have any reflections or lessons learned there?
Well, the establishment of a nationwide policies in Austria, will help a lot. And so the lesson seems to be that even if some kind of bottom-up approach can be followed, the top-down, I wouldn't say enforcement, but recommendations and putting in place what needs to be is actually what is needed in the end. So no matter how much groundwork you can do, and well, of course there are researchers using data and engaging with EOSC, but there's not, maybe the regional level in the sense that was employed in the ITS project is not the ideal one to implement this kind of open science practices, and it has to come rather from above, higher above. So the national would be the right size.
Any other questions or comments from the floor about the regional approach? Then maybe one final question from me. What do you see as the kind of key benefit? So I can ask this to each of the panelists in turn. From that regional collaboration, what was the major achievement you had, whether that's in terms of like the fact that users want to engage with somebody locally, that's a way that you've been able to hook them into EOSC, or what's been the real driver and why would you advocate for the regional approach? You want to go ahead, Helen, first, or whoever?
I think the shared learning and the sense of the collaboration, I think that brings us together as nations. And this is a European project and beyond, we know that. But I think by working together as countries, we can sort of learn from each other and get that shared sort of sense of vision.
Yeah.
If that's not too much.
Yeah, I agree. I would say, I mean, the thing, we should not neglect how much, how important it is that we meet and work with our close colleagues, because this is what you lose when you go to, you lose, we build it up slowly, but it's faster, it's more stronger engagement when you work as neighbors or colleagues, closer colleagues, and honestly, now we have had Corona, we know how it is to work virtually, but we are really, I feel now when we are together, we are really, moving forward again. And this is something, it's a very pragmatic thing, but I think we should not neglect it. We can all see it can work from a centralized point of view, fine, but if we really want to have it integrated and operational and working well in the local communities, we need local engagement. That's the core of the whole thing, I think.
From the EOSC pillar side, so of course we support the views that were expressed previously, but on another aspect, actually coordination on EOSC messaging, which is a very important aspect, that was really let's say implemented, at least for us, in our regional collaboration. And sharing of resources, even something as simple as having a translator for a poster in French or German. It might seem like a simple thing, but these are the things you get with a regional collaboration. Also, better understanding of the specificities of the other countries that you're collaborating with. You kind of see how are things different. For example, in Austria or Belgium, you have highly structured, let's say, hierarchies for some countries, whereas you have, for example, Belgium, where research and innovation is a little bit more on the regional, sort of similar to somewhat like Styria level, on a provincial level. So messaging, coordination of messaging, as well as understanding the specificities of each of the countries.
Excellent. Miguel, and then Elias.
For us, it worked as a kind of good engagement tool to landscaping to know what people knew about data-related things, to bring stakeholders closer to the idea of using shared services and tools and infrastructures.
Excellent. And Elias?
Yes. So from NIFOS.
Yeah, I think
okay,
so.
yes.
Yeah.
So from the NIFOS Europe program project, the benefits, I would say that it was that we have engaged more the people at the national level, and we gave to the smaller countries a voice, and this is important. So we managed to develop the EOSC into the national stakeholders, and it was very important for us.
Excellent. Yeah, so lots of sharing of expertise, and from a EOSC association perspective, I think having somebody local, having that engagement happening, whether it's within the region or on the national level, having that kind of support that's kind of more focused on the context in which people are working is really critical as well. So I'd ask you to help thank our panelists once again.